is the beast from Hollywood East, Michael the Hammer Mulligan.
Hey folks, Michael the Hammer Mulligan here with Kevin McDonald. He's a referee, and you working tonight?
I'm working tonight.
You're working tonight. Tonight's you know, it's going to be past by the time this gets out there, but it's November 19th.
Correct.
At the Jungleplex. It's going to be a good night. Kevin, give me a little. First of all, I must say that I've never been upstaged with the clothing here. You're looking. What do we got? Like the red velour thing rocking and
smoking jacket.
Is that your normal hair? Because that looks pretty damn good.
It's been my normal hair. About 2 years ago, my wife said, "You know what? All your friends are going bald. You've had the same haircut since you were 10 years old. Once you grow it, see what happens." I said, "It's going to be a whole thing." It became a whole thing.
There you go. There you go. Nice. And what's that around your neck? You hiding hickeys? That's what
No, it's an ascot. It's class.
Wow,
Thurston
you got some
action.
class.
Fireside Chat. A lot of these guys show up in t-shirts and jeans.
You know,
So
and
respect the location.
my mother, she says, "Michael Gretsch, would you please tell him to stop playing with his feet?"
Hey.
You know what I mean?
No.
Bill Mahoney, it's Bill Mahoney.
He's earned the right to wear whatever he wants.
He can do whatever he wants. That's
Absolutely.
funny. Awesome. All right, so give me a little bit of your background in mixed martial arts.
My background, you know, I always, I remember I was at the Naval Academy, UFC 1, my brother sent me a videotape, we snuck into the wardroom, we watched it, I was hooked.
Yep.
Moved around the country quite a bit, ended up down in Houston, Texas, going to funeral directing school, because that was what my family was into.
Is that where you got the jacket?
Yes, actually, from, no. I was down there, I wanted to get back in shape, I was overweight, I liked Thai boxing, so I got back into that. I had done something with Fairtex when they were still in Revere.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, back in the days,
Well,
Steve.
how long ago was that?
Back when Jerry first opened it, Jerry and Steve over on Broadway in Revere.
Yes, I would know. Yep.
Yeah, it would have been, probably like 97.
Wow, it's
96.
been around a while then.
Yeah, well then they changed, now they're in Dorchester.
Yep,
I
nice.
lost the Fairtex name, but yeah, so I want to get back into that. I end up meeting this kid, he says, "Hey, my name's Eve Edwards."
Sure.
He hadn't had his first fight at that point, and
Wow.
we were just, you know, scrapping, beating the hell out of each other. They said, "You should take a fight." I said, "What's the deal?" And I said, "Well, I can't go to jail, I'll get paid, and if it gets bad, I could stop, I'll do it."
This
So,
is life. Yeah.
It was great. Got in on the ground floor. Had a bunch of fun stories. I got to fight out in John Lover's L.A. Underground #2. Got to fight down in New Orleans, and you know, just all around the state of Texas. Some great stories.
See, this is why I love this show, because I had no idea. All this stuff he's telling me. Now, Eve, I was just watching with my son, you know, just an old, you know, UFC on Spike, whatever, and it was just an old one with Eve, and it was talking about, you know, he started in '97, I think, was his first fight, right? And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't seen that the other day. So this is great. Keep going. This is interesting.
Yeah, first fight I ever went to, he said, "Hey, I'm fighting in one of these things. Why don't you come?" I said, "All right." And it ended up being, I was in his corner with Boss Rutan and Marco Huas.
Oh,
you know, and
man,
I'm just
it's
like,
legends.
wow, I seen these guys on TV and all, and it's just dirt floor in Texas. First fight I ever had, I didn't have much ground at all. I was doing very well against this kid. I was in his guard, and I decided, hey, I'll stand back up. So I turned around. He said, "Thank you, Lord." Applied the rear naked.
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the canvas.
Yeah. What happened?
The coach said, "Hey, 2 reactions. Either get me back in there or I'm done." I said, "Let's do it again."
Get back on the horse. Yeah. Nice.
It was good. Moved back up to Boston. It was just hard because there weren't MMA schools at that point. It was, you go to one place for Thai, you go to one place for ground, you go, and there weren't really many fights.
And they were few and far between too.
Yeah.
You know, the different schools. Yeah.
Yeah, I did the second Rhode Island Valley Tudo. I fought Jimmy Hattori on that one. I was the one when Tim Sylvia fought George Rivera. And they went through the ceiling panels at Manny's old school. And then, yeah, it slowed down. I just didn't have the time. I didn't love training hardcore anymore.
Right.
I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't. And my wife said, "Hey, if you're going to keep going to these things, you got to make some money." So I had, you know, it was one of those, I think the first time I ref was by default. I didn't have an opponent down south.
Yep.
"Hey, can you ref it?" "Yeah, sure."
Nice.
I was able to come through the ranks because back then it was like, don't let the guy die, and if he quits, stop it.
Right. Now, they had no gloves either back then.
No,
right? They were stopping them when they were on the ground.
Yeah,
It was all sorts of
absolutely,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, been active ever since. And then I moved away again. I was living with my wife. She's a nurse. We were traveling around the country, so I got to again do the circuit.
Did you meet her after one of your fights at the hospital? Or just...
No, it was a funny story. We met through a friend, and then I'd travel anywhere, fight. If I got beat down, so be it. Nobody really knew around here.
Exactly. And even if they did, who cares? It's all about getting in.
And then so the first time I had dinner with her parents was a few weeks after a fight I had in New Orleans, and the Boston Herald had covered it, put it on the front page. I thought it was a little stuff, front page, and I just remember her father saying, well, so long as it's not that crazy stuff where guys get in the cage, So it's Mom never acknowledged it, disgusted by it, but now
your
after
mom or her mom?
My mom,
okay,
it's I always had to say I was going camping. That was the thing. I got a lot of stitches going camping.
Yeah.
But it was great.
That's rough.
And we came back and my mother, and now of course since I got some TV stuff and all. Oh, my son's the referee.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
It's been a great ride seeing everything go. I moved away. I was training with Matt Hume over at AMC and Marie Smith, and then down to California, then Florida with Dean Thomas and those guys.
Wow.
And then came back. Mass was sanctioning at that point. I put my stuff in. I reffed a few bouts with them, back with the bow ties and the white.
Yeah.
And then they pulled out, and then at that point, guys kind of wanted to do shows, and I started building up a network of guys. They'd call me. I get the judges, I get the refs, I get whatever they needed, and it just sort of steamrolled. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's been
beautiful. So you've seen basically everything, this whole growth, this whole with the new commission coming in and everything else. One of the questions I had, I actually hit on this, and just to go off track a little bit, but I hit on this with Bill Mahoney. I hit on it with Mike. You probably know better than everybody. One of the major things around here has been weight. One of the things is like whose responsibility, when the guys get in the ring and they're off weight, to me, my thought was okay, so we got a commission in place and these are the people that are supposed to enforce the rules and make everything happen. I don't want to make enemies, obviously. I'm going to do this show for a while, but I got to know.
Been there, done that.
I'm working to clean things up, folks, all right? Love me, hate me, here I am. But whose responsibility is it besides the fighter? In other words, if my kid is a wrestler, he's got to get to a certain weight. That's his responsibility. If he doesn't get there, he's not going to fight.
Absolutely.
You got these guys going in, and they're coming in 9 pounds overweight, and they're giving up their purse to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
It's tough. I mean, again, I came from back when we never saw a scale.
Oh, exactly.
You didn't even know who you were fighting. You didn't know you were fighting until the night of.
Right.
But now as it's become a real professional sport where guys are making their living and they want to climb the ranks, I mean, I think it falls on everybody. I think, it definitely falls on the fighter. But as a coach, if you want to have the respect, you got to be bringing the guys on weight. You're making the agreement.
Yep.
And again, the fighter's training, he's doing what his coach tells him to. So I think, the coach definitely needs to take an active role.
And that's what we said. That's what Mahoney and Gratz both said. And Pat, everybody said the same thing, that as school coaches and owners of schools and stuff, they would not allow their guy to get to that point. But we have independence and we have everything else. And I understand that sometimes you're off. I watched a video tonight with the guy that's going to fight, who's the guy that lost to Anderson in the last 2 minutes or whatever, with the, remember we got him in a triangle, he beat him, Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
All right, so the guy that's fighting him, they're doing an interview on that MMA TV show that's online. And he goes in every week and he cuts 9 pounds in his hot tub with water and Epsom salt. That's how he does it.
Yeah.
Right? And then he puts it on the next day. He's fighting. So he knows how to do it. And I understand that guy that practices maybe sometime he's got to come in 1 or 2 pounds over by accident. I understand that. But the 9 and the 14 and that kind of thing.
And that's where, guys that didn't come up through wrestling and having to cut weight, like that's what the amateur fights are for.
Right,
and to learn that kind of stuff. And it's not like we're boxing or some of these sports that have extremely small weight categories.
Sure.
I mean, they're basically 15 to 20 pounds.
Exactly.
So it's if you can't make it, don't agree to it.
So then you think that in an amateur okay, we understand it, but once you go pro, you're a professional, you should stick with the rules.
Absolutely. I mean, amateurs should be making
Makes sense.
every possible effort, and that's the learning curve.
Yep.
Just like, you know, referees that are doing amateurs, judges that are doing it, everybody, that's to learn. And you always want to err on the side of safety, of course, you know, with the amateurs even more so. So you learn and you go forward. I mean, amateurs got the bigger gloves. Amateurs, you know, depending on what state you're in, have, you know, modified rules.
No
so
knees,
if
no
there's,
elbows,
yeah, I mean,
right,
if there's
right.
a, you know, if there's a little bit more of a weight discrepancy, again, you've got the bigger gloves, you've got the safer rules,
Sure.
you've got, you know, but then when you make that step forward, I mean, it's just like anything. I mean, if you're going to be in a professional environment, dress professionally.
Exactly.
Act professionally.
All right, so on to the safety then. We'll stick on that theme here for a little bit. When you got two guys in the cage and your job is one is to, you know, like say who wins, but the main thing is to make sure they're safe. What are you looking for? What are you looking for in these guys when they're in there fighting? What are the signs? What are the...
Every fight is different, and every time you learn something. I mean, I have in my training course that I teach for referees, you know, I have a whole slide on mesh shorts guy. Generally, mesh shorts guy is one of two things. Either it's his first or second time, and he's an absolute bull that might knock somebody out,
Right.
or mesh shorts guy has been hired by the promoter because they needed somebody to step in there, and he steps in there. So you can, oftentimes, you know, on the smaller local shows, you see pretty quickly, okay, you know, anything could happen at any time, but this guy's starting to get the edge. And
Right.
you'll see that sometimes with the referees. Like, you try to start each bout in what we call triangle position, where you got the two fighters and the referee in between. And then one guy starts to edge out or starts to light the other guy up, you sort of start to get a little closer to that guy so you can see everything that's happening to the other fighter. Now, it can always switch right back, but, you know, that way, you know, when you see the tide turn or you see the eyes roll, you know, again, depending on the amateur or pro,
You become a little bit more focused on the guy that's under the weather.
Absolutely. And of course it's MMA, so you do that, and then this guy fires one back, and you know it's.
Yeah. And then you hear Joe Rogan, oh!
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's awesome. You see it often. You see it where the fight will start, and one guy will hit the other guy, and the life will just roll out of him. Not the life, I guess, but the determination.
All the will to fight. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And that's where you see guys who are composed. That's where you see guys who've been around, because you get some of these guys, and they'll have that strike that takes everything out of them, but they instinctually, they can lock up a hold or tie something up to buy that 5, 6, 8, 10 seconds that gets them back into it. You know, yeah. A classic example was the you know, Joey Cav show back in the unsanctioned days when Barrington Douse, I think it was, landed a knee to Dan Bonnell to the chest right near the end of the round. Just took everything out of Dan, and you know, he thought the fight was over. And
did Dan?
No, Barrington. And you know, Dan goes down, the horn sounds, he was saved by the bell because the fight was never stopped. But there ends up being all this confusion and all that, you know, Bonnell ends up getting, you know, a minute and a half rather than the minute. And I think it went on even a little longer than that because everybody was yelling and everybody, and then he's like, I'm good now, I got it back. You know? And then he wins the fight. You know, it's referee karma. Whenever, you know, you think it comes back.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Now, how many times? I mean, look, you guys do great jobs in there. I mean, you really do. You're in there, you're working, you have two guys who are trying to kill each other, and your job is to make sure that this is fair and there's no groin, there's no hole in the cage, there's no, you know, this guy's still safe, is his eyes rolling. With all this stuff, you miss shit.
Yeah.
Oops,
oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I got punched,
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's that like? How does that make you feel? I mean, because you know you get the crap.
You're trying to do the best you can, and one of the things that has always got me is, you know, some referees, you know, just, you know, you know, you miss it. And to me, I always go back, whenever there's something controversial, I watch the tape, I talk to other referees, I have other people watch it, you know, just, was it just one of those things? It wasn't, because sometimes it's just not possible.
Right.
Other times, you know, hey, you know what, maybe I should have been looking at this, maybe I should have been, and you just, you know, you don't beat yourself up over it, but if you're not
part
concerned,
of life, you can look back and say, oh, I could have, should have, would have.
Yeah.
But I mean, how's it, After you're getting the abuse, I'm talking about the one that everybody out there is mad at you because and they're yelling at you. How does that mess with your head a little bit?
I mean, it definitely does. That comes with experience.
Right, right.
I mean, again, I was lucky to come through when there are hardly any rules.
Sure.
Right up to where, there's a lot of rules now. And, a lot of things happen. I know one referee who, he had been told by the licensing board who approved him that he would only do amateur bouts to start off with. First night he's out there, he gets thrown a pro title flag. And he does 3 or 4 cards, and he does very well. They're pleased with him. And then he calls me and he's like, hey, things are going well. I was like, well, now the next step is you need to feel what it's like to have the whole place pissed. Right. If that's not a punchable offense here. And
I punch you just for fun.
But and then that happened on the next card, and it rattled him.
Yeah.
And he even asked, after 2 or 3 that went bad, he was like, hey, and again, when that stuff turns, the other refs got to take up the slack. People got to recognize that because it's safety that we're talking about. And unfortunately, the powers that be said, no, you get back right in there. And that one didn't go so well. So I mean, it just like fighting,
exactly.
You got to go through a bunch of different situations in order to move to the next
level.
Live
and learn.
Yeah.
Live and learn. Hey, that's all part of it, and everybody, you can't see everything. I guess was my point,
Yeah.
And another thing that kind of gets me about the fight sometimes is like, look, you're in there, you can see what's going on. The people out there, if you got 2 guys that are on the ground and they're doing good, they're making moves, the crowd's booing when you're hearing that. Does that influence you at all, or are you smart enough to understand what the guys are doing?
It doesn't influence as much per se as, my philosophy usually is in the first round I try not to stand fighters.
Right.
I like to let them, see what they're going to do, see how they're going to do it, and there's all different, theories toward this. Second round, I'll stand them up a little bit more. Like if you've proven to me that you're just going to go to guard and you're just going to punch the ribs and that's it.
Right.
Then by the 3rd round we're going to be getting up quicker.
Right. Exactly.
I tell refs when I teach them, I say, what you need to do is you need to listen to the crowd, listen to the corners. It doesn't mean they're right. But if you're kind of caught up in the moment and you hear the crowd saying that, you might then say in your mind, well, is there anything happening?
So if you're on the fence, if you're looking at it and you're not seeing much and you're not sure what to do, you got another ref kind of.
Well, it's more of a you might get focused on something.
Right.
It's like if someone's grabbing the cage. Now sometimes you'll have guys, they'll be up against the fence and they'll be, kind of grabbing the cage in a position where you can't see. And you'll hear the corner starting to scream, he's grabbing the cage, or the people in the crowd, he's grabbing the cage. You don't take that as gospel, you can't take a point or give a warning for that.
Right.
But that tells you, you know what?
I gotta keep
I'm going to go over and take a look at this to make sure.
Yeah.
And then, so it's extra information that you can use how you like.
I had when I was fighting Doloff at the Jungle Flex, I'm on top of him, right? And I'm punching him, and I'm hitting him in the top of the ear, but my hand is, 4XL. It's hard to get in them gloves, right? So I'm hitting in the top of the ear, and it's coming around and it's hitting him in the top of the head. But it's not, the instructions that I've received is as long as you hit him in the ear, you're not hitting the top of the head.
That's gotten a little more, back of the head strikes are to me, I think, one of the toughest things in sport.
To figure out.
Because when a guy takes another guy's back and he's just going for that barrage, it happens, some sneak through. I try to make it a point, if I ever see effect, I stop the bout, make sure the kid's okay, then continue, because, it's just not a good way to lose. But it's very tricky because a lot of people don't know, back of the head strikes are defined as center line of the back of the head, and then top of the ears make a T-square with that center line.
Yep.
So a lot of times it was said, so long as some part of your glove touches some part of the ear, and we used to say that. But I tell guys in the meeting now, make sure half the glove. Because once it starts going back there, that's the nape of the neck, that's an illegal strike.
Right. So he had it was like, top of the head, top of the head, top of the head. She said it 20 times. Finally he grabbed me and stopped it. One point, top of the head. I'm just like, I didn't even look at the ref, I looked at her, really?
Yeah, and even nowadays, because that strike you're talking about is completely legal.
Right, and I looked at it, 100 times on the video, dude, it's like,
Yeah.
Fortunately, I won, and it was, I was okay with it. But it was just, it was like, because you feel like you're doing it right. He had warned me once, and I looked. I said, "I'm hitting the ear."
Right. Yeah.
But,
I mean, they, and the thing that really just rattles you is you expect everyone. There's certain things like back of the head and fence grabs, but you expect most always the rules to be followed. Last night we were in Rhode Island, and I had one kid. It was a great fight. And then the other kid is down, he's getting up, he's on his knees, the other kid just pow, knee right to the face. I mean, beautiful knee.
Yeah.
Had it been legal.
He lost the fight?
He ended up, and then later on, same night, there was a fight where, thankfully I was not in there for that bout, but a guy took a groin shot from where the ref really couldn't see it, and the ref circled around to take a look. And the kid went down, and then as he was circling, soccer kick right to to I mean, just had we been in Japan,
was he already on the floor? His knees were
all four. And it's a tricky thing because officially ref didn't see it. You can't call it.
You saw the kick to the face, though.
But no.
Oh
no. So this
not the groin.
So that fight is under protest currently. But it's because from where he was coming around. He saw the kick, but he thought it landed, right across the collarbone, right to the face.
That's
but
too bad.
I mean, things happen. You try to get better, and you try to catch everything.
If there was anything that you'd like to see change about the way the rules are and that, the way they're going now, what would it be? And I only asked you. I never asked anybody this, but obviously you've been around for a long time.
I mean, again, I come from back in the day when knee strikes on the head were legal on the ground.
Yeah.
And I understand kind of why they don't, but I think it completely changes the game. I mean, the fact with elbows, you see a guy, he just lands one perfect elbow, just slices the cut, and the fight's over.
Exactly.
Knees to the head, you see a lot more action.
Yeah.
There's a lot more.
You see a lot more guys trying to get up. They don't just lay there.
Right,
because that's what I'll tell you what, I took it, I remember being on the ground, being pinned against the cage, being hit in the head. Them gloves don't hurt. I mean, I know sometimes you get hit in the sweet spot when you're standing up and you go out, but you can take a lot of punches.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
you don't feel anything.
You don't until it's over. And that's the way it used to be as a kid. You don't feel anything until it's over. But the knees tend to make you move a little faster.
Oh,
they take you out of that comfort zone. I'm going to lay here and take a nap.
Yeah, and I understand that. That's something that'll never happen, so it's kind of a moot point, here. But I even think back to the day when we had when it used to be the open hand.
Right.
And I tell you, the open hand, like every time one of those things lands, you felt it.
You can't do an open hand anymore?
And well, you can, but when you weren't allowed, it was the bare knuckle, but it was open hand strikes to the face. In the old pancration days.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're in the crowd or you're fighting, and a guy lands one of those, and there's the slapping and the stinging and everything.
Oh, this right here!
Yeah,
oh, it's amazing. That's because you got your gloves, you padded. You're not padded right there.
No.
That's just an amazing hit. People cringe. They don't like the feel of that.
You look at the old John Lover bust, Root and Frank Shamrock and Pancration. I mean, people. It's open hand. Yeah, take one.
What do you think of the new Pancration stuff that's going on?
Anything that starts, I'm in support of.
Good.
Anything, and I know I was talking to Andrew Montanez, who's fought out here quite a bit. He's in Hollywood now, and also Mark Stevens, because there's a new promotion out of Central America that's got a 2-year contract, and they're doing once a month, I believe, in a different Central South American country.
Is that fight?
There's one December 3rd that he's fighting. Yeah. And then I know Mark Stevens is heading down for, I think, in Colombia for February.
I'd like to get Shane into those. He's done Gary's, he's won everything he's done with him and Naga and stuff, but he hasn't, I was thinking about doing that, but now it's wrestling season, so that ain't gonna happen. Alright, so we're running out of time, so I gotta ask you, if you had to pick in all of mixed martial arts, of all of the stuff that you've done, who is the whiniest person out there? Who would be the whiniest guy in the sport? I need to know. I want to know.
In the position I'm in, obviously, I can't name fighters. It's a tricky path as a referee. I know for anyone that's been looking on Facebook, there was another MMA official recently who, you know, he's okay. We checked, he's okay. He was recently in the hospital.
Oh, Steve Rita.
Now that you mention it.
Oh!
No, Steve's not whiny. I love breaking on him. You know, it's
Yeah, but I gotta say this though. He told me that he was the best referee.
you know, if you don't, I'll never say that. I try to be the best I can every time I go out there. I will never make that statement because to me that is an arrogant statement, and any one of us is 2 to 3 calls away from never being seen again.
So then Steve's better than you?
So that we'll do an online poll if any fighters would like. No, it's you know,
I'm only messing around.
They did some awards last year. You know, but no,
oh, did you take it? Did you good?
You know, I think 6 guys voted.
I gotta compliment you one more time on the clothes. You really look good. I appreciate
you
that.
You know, I take it serious. I seen them on TV. You know, it's plus it's Mustache November. In case anyone's wondering, no, I do not think this mustache looks good. A bunch of us at the fire station, we went in for Movember, raising money for prostate cancer through Movember.com.
Nice.
If anyone would like to donate anything, it's the Friends of John L. Sullivan is our team.
Nice. Is there a
December
website
1st
for that?
We'll be shaving it. Yep, Movember.com, and you just click on the groups.
November?
Movember.
Movember.
Yeah,
Movember.com is where you can donate to
the Friends of John L. Sullivan. It's MMA and firefighters that we're raising money, and then we're all shaving on December 1st.
Awesome, awesome. Steve,
Wow.
Steve's not here.
Wow.
Kevin.
Must be the stash.
It was the mustache. It was the hair. I don't think he put quite as much stuff in it as he did, though.
No, you know, it's going gray a little bit on him.
Kevin, thank you very much. This was awesome. This is really awesome. Folks, thanks for coming to another Fireside Chat with Michael the Hammer Mulligan and Kevin MacDonald.